Hey guys, hi everyone. Good morning. I hope I'm audible as well as visible. Hello guys, hi everyone. Hello guys, hi everyone. Hi everyone. Walaikum salam, Hania. Hi Chirayu. Hello everyone. Hi guys. Hi. I hope I'm audible as well as visible. I can see very minimum students here as of now. So we will wait few minutes for rest of the people to join as well, and then we will start our class. Okay. Please ask your friends to join as soon as they can. Good morning, Sukhjot. Good morning. Good morning, Adarsh. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So people are joining. People are joining. Let's wait 1 or 2 minutes for rest of the people to join, and then we will start our class. Okay. Good morning, Abhi. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Manmohan. Good morning. Good morning, Ankit. I'm not seeing that many people joining. What's the reason? Why is that? I can see only 14 people here. Good morning, Dreamy World. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So I can still see very minimum number here. That's not enough. So we will wait 1 or 2 minutes and then we will start our class. 18 is very minimum number. We have more than 250 students in our group, and I'm definitely expecting more than 50 students in the class. So not sure why people are not joining. And let's start. Let's start. Let's not waste our time. There's no point of wasting our time. I hope I'm audible. Please give me a confirmation in the chat. Am I audible, guys? Am I visible? I think I should be, right? Very good. Perfect. Great. So let me, good morning, Gona. Good morning. Let me present, share my screen. And please confirm whether my screen is visible or not. Please put few messages in the WhatsApp group and ask them to join. Adarsh has already done that. I request rest of the students to do the same thing as well. So let me open my whiteboard and then we will start our class. Okay. So we are right now taking our classes after 2 weeks. I would say this is our second week. Last week we did not had any class from my side, but I had arranged guest faculty, you can say, for all of you, and we took a project session. Although I have not seen them yet, but I am definitely going to see them most probably this weekend. I mean tomorrow, and give me first of all feedback of that. So were those two sessions helpful to you guys? And I need an honest reply, and I need an honest feedback from your side related to those two sessions that I arranged for all of you, and both of them were project sessions. So give me a feedback, and in the meantime, I will set up the environment. Were those two sessions fruitful, guys? I'm not seeing anyone replying in the chat. Why is that? And I can see only 21 students. That's very minimum number. I usually see always more than 35. So this 21 doesn't look good. Let me put a message from my side as well. Allow me 2 seconds, okay? Okay, I guess we can start. It was a basic project and helpful. Great, perfect, perfect. If it was helpful, then my agenda behind that is completely fulfilled. Okay, so I guess we can start our class now. In our previous class, not project sessions, but before that, my class, we had a very fruitful discussion on how to approach our layouts. And we try to understand that whenever we create any website, any design, there can be two approaches that we can use. Number one is called one-way dimensional approach. Number two is called a two-way dimensional approach. We have discussed only one dimensional approach until now. That's called a flex, in which we discussed few of the properties. We have not discussed grid, and that's what we will discuss after 20 to 30 minutes. I will try to wrap up flex very soon, very quickly. And we will, of course, do a very small project on both flex as well as grid once this CSS HTML is done. As of now, we will just focus on the concepts. We will try to learn different concepts in these. And then once all of this HTML CSS is done, we will have one particular class of 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. Because this is my batch, I can take 4 hour class straight as well, and we will complete a single project in that, wrapping up all of the HTML CSS. It should not take more than 2 weeks now in HTML CSS, and we are going to soon start soon our JavaScript very quickly. Okay, let's try to quickly revise what we discussed in our previous class. Right? Although honestly speaking, I'm not very happy with the numbers here, because from last few days I invited a lot of other students in the class, and even after that there's only 28 students. That's something that's not acceptable. So we have to think about that, whether we want to continue like this or not. We will have to take proper decisions around that, because that's not how this is going to work. But I am really happy because I can see faces who continuously join. Like I can see Raman, Sabia, Hania, Ankit, Sadi, right? So please be active always, and we will see what we can do, okay, related to this batch or not. Because if there's are 27 students, I will probably create a private group for these 27 students, and I will teach them there. Okay, I don't want to in that case make rest of the people happy. Okay, honestly speaking, let's start. In our previous class, we had a very fruitful discussion on flex. We try to understand that whenever we talk about flex property, this flex property means I am trying to approach my layout in a one dimensional layout. And always this flex display, flex gap, flex wrap, or we saw justify content, align items, flex direction, all those properties, they are all flex container properties, which means they will be implemented on the container, not on the items. Yes, if any one of your item has more children and you want to align them in one dimensional, then in that case you can implement this flex property, container property on the items as well, but provided you want to arrange the children inside that item. Okay, in our, let me try to go live with this particular website, and let's see how this will react. Although it has opened a new tab in our another page, you can clearly see this is what my output looks like. Although, can anyone in my chat section say why I am seeing a two-dimensional layout? Although when we talk about display flex, it's always one-dimensional layout. Why am I seeing two-dimensional layout? What's the reason behind that? Because I taught you a very particular property in our previous class called as, quickly, called as flex wrap, right? So we have this flex wrap that we can implement on our parent, and this flex wrap means that if, no, not width, not width. You need to understand that when we create our container, if there are the flex items, they are simply overlapping my main container, then in that case we can simply use this flex wrap, and it allows my items inside the container take next rows depending on how many items we have. So the property we use for this flex wrap, if I remove this flex wrap here, Let's suppose I'm simply going to remove this flex wrap here. You can clearly see now the items are in a single line, and but they are overlapping as well, and which we do not want. So to make sure that these items, instead of shrinking them, instead of overlapping there, so what we can do is overlapping there, what we can do is we can use a property called as flex wrap. And once we do flex wrap, you can see they automatically take their own width, and they take the number of rows they are supposed to take, number of columns they are supposed to take. Let's move forward over there, and let's talk about one very important thing. I will change the width of every item. Let me make it 100 pixel width, and let me make height as 50 pixels, and I will remove few of the items here. Let me make them only 5, right? This is what I have, and also I will increase the container width as well, and I will increase the container width as, let's put 600 pixels, so it will be a very big container, right? Let me decrease the width over there, although let's keep it like this. Okay, now please pay close attention here, and please try to understand what I'm trying to say over here. We know that in our previous class we have seen one very important property. Let me put a padding over here to this container so that the items will be a little bit down. So let me implement padding of 10 pixel like this, and now the items are a little bit down. This is one very important property that we discussed in our previous class. First of all, before I talk about that property, we also understood two axes. What are the two axes inside our flex, guys? Can anyone tell me quickly? When we talk about flex, there are two axes that we talk about. What are those two axes? Those two axes are very good. They are main axis and cross axis. So main axis is what the flex direction is. If the flex direction is row, in that case, row direction will be main axis. If the flex direction is column, in that case, the y-axis will be the main axis. So it depends on, there's no x-axis and y-axis, Manmohan. We have two types of axes over here, which is called main and cross axis. As of now, when we implement this display flex in this black container, we know its flex direction is by default a row. So it means this x-axis is actually our main axis. Now, if I want to align items in main axis, what is the property that we use? We use a very important property called as justify content. And in this justify content, if I write center something like this, you can clearly see it implements that center as well, right? So let me implement center here. Although it's not working, it's not responding. Give me a second. Something happened with my VS Code. Perfect. So it is center, and you can clearly see now the items are in the center. Let me increase the width. Let me say 100% is the width of my container instead of making it just 660 pixel. Sorry, 600 pixel. You can see the items are in center. If I go over here and if I write my space between, you can clearly see that there is a space between now. If I write space around, this is how the application will go like, right? We have seen this property already. We have understood that whenever we want to move our items in a container using main axis, we can use justify content. What is the other property, guys? If we want to move our items in the cross axis, with respect to cross axis, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do in with respect to cross axis, which means in this case with respect to y axis? What is the property? Very good, you have guessed it correctly. It's align items. So if I say align items over there, not align content, which we have not discussed yet, but we can say align items over here. Now in this case, if I write center, you can clearly see now the items are at the center. But guys, you guys will tell me in the chat with a yes or no. Do you think justify content and align items, they are opposite of each other? Do you think that? Yes or no? With whatever we have discussed until now, what do you think that when I talk about justify content or align items, are these properties opposite of each other? Are these properties opposed of each other? I want all of the students type in the chat. What do you think? What do you think? Quickly, I am seeing only few responses. I can see yes, yes, few, but not all. So if you have understood, watched all the previous classes, you would say yes, sir, they are opposed. But I'm saying no. They are not opposite of each other. Let me give an example here. In justify content, when I try to align items with respect to main axis, I just don't have center values. You can see how many values I have. I have center, I have end, I have flex start. Let's talk about these three especially. Space around, space between, space evenly. And I can use one of them. Let's put space around, and this is how my elements look like. But on the other hand, if I talk about align items, align items do not have these values. By that I mean like space around space between space evenly. I don't have these values here. So why is that? Though you need to understand, first of all, with respect to main axis we have justify content, with respect to cross axis we have align items, but we also have one another property called as align content. Now when I talk about align content, in this case if I talk about align content, you can see space around, space between, and space evenly. But even if I implement it, you cannot see any reflection in the output. So first of all, we need to understand that what is align content, which we have not discussed in our previous class, and what is align items, and what is the difference between them, and why did I said that justify content and align items, they are not opposed of each other. They are to some extent, but not entirely. So that's something that we need to understand here. First of all, when we write our align content, even if I write space around, even if I write space between, you do not see any reflection in the output with respect to my cross axis. So what's happening? And this is one of the very important interview questions related to your CSS Flex. That is the difference between align items and align content. And let's try to understand that over here. Okay. So what I will do is I will first of all give you some scenarios, and you have to be very patient with me, and you have to try to understand and answer in the chat. Let's suppose this is my flex container. Okay. And these are the items that I have. So these are the 4 items that I have. Try to understand what I'm trying to say. And to this container that I have implemented align items is equals to center. What does that mean? That means now these items, 4 items, will be somehow placed at the center like this. This is what the place of these 4 items will be. Yes or no? Of course, yes. But on the other hand, what is align content? Align items and align content. There's one very important thing which is same, which is common between both of them. What is that? They both align the items of the container with respect to cross axes. But then why is my align content not working here? Give me a second, okay? Give me a second only. Okay, please pay attention. Before I try to explain align content, I have a small question to all of you. Let's suppose this is my container and this is how my items are right now. Can you guys tell me when is this arrangement possible? Like I have created and arranged my items in this way. When is this possible? When is this possible? This is possible only under one condition, when on this container I have used a property that's called flex wrap. Okay. Now, when I talk about flex wrap, can I say one very important point over here? That this container right now is divided into 2 equal rows. This container is divided into 2 equal rows. Yes or no? Very good. Or let's suppose I will simply have my web design like this. So in this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, say 6, 7, 8, 9. Can I say in this case, my container that I have, it is divided into 3 equal rows? The answer is yes. Now, when we go in the output and let's try to understand this flex wrap over here. So what I will do is I will simply go implement a flex wrap. So let me go write flex wrap over here like this, in which I will simply tell it to wrap the content. Although it won't wrap as of now because there's enough space available. So it is not going to overflow the content here. But let's make it overflowed. So let me simply go, instead of 100 pixel width, I will simply give it, let's put 300 pixel. And then over here, I can clearly see now the items are overflowed. Why? Because each item is 100 pixel. And if my width is 300 pixel, it means there will be only 2 items available in a single row. That's obvious. Let me create one another item over here like this. Please try to understand what I'm trying to say here. Okay. Can I, as of now, say one very important point? And if I try to zoom it a little bit, this is something very important, and most of the students do not understand this. Trust me. Can I say, as of now, my web application is divided into 3 rows? This is first row. Let's suppose this is second row, although it might be upper niche, but this is what my container looks like. Now, in this case, if I go and try to implement one small thing, which is over here, instead of align content, I will simply comment this out. Okay, let me cut it out. And what I will do is I will simply go write align items. And in this case, I will write align items at center. Now something happened there. Please pay attention. Something happened. You can see something happened. This was a small, minute change over there. Let me keep it like this, and I will simply decrease the height of each item. So let me make each item 10 pixels so that you can properly visualize it. Okay. See, please pay close attention here. Let me remove this property as of now, and let's try to understand what we mean by align items. If I go write align items here and let me make it center, do you see my items are moving to center with respect to their own row, not with respect to the container? Yes or no? Do you see that? Or let me change this and let me make it start. Do you see my items are moving to start with respect to its own row, not with respect to the container? Yes. If I go right and over here, you can clearly see my items are moving with respect to their own row, not with respect to their container. Are we able to visualize that? So now the align items definition is little bit changed. It's not just with respect to cross axis. Align items is a property that allows you to move your items with respect to cross axis, but with respect to their own row. That's it. But on the another case, if I implement align content, if I implement align content, when I implement align content, let me write center. So align content will move the items with respect to the container, not with respect to their own row. Do you understand the difference? Both of them are moving the items with respect to the cross axis. But when we talk about align content moves the items with respect to their own row, but align content moves with respect to the whole container. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Am I clear? Am I clear? There's one very important point now. Remember this, note this down on your note copy. When for a container, both of the properties are implemented, align items do not make any sense. Which means even if you write align items center, align items, whatever the value, start, end, it will not be implemented. It is overridden by align content because align content will move the items with respect to the container. Now, if it is moving the items with respect to the container, will it be moved with respect to the own row? The answer is no. Okay, so whether you write align items in this case or not, it does not make any sense. It's one of the same things. But align content moves with respect to the own, with respect to the whole container, and align items moves with respect to the own row. But there's also one very important point over here, which is that align content will always make effect when there's a property used called as flex wrap. Remember earlier when I used align content, it did not show any effect. That's the reason. Because align content works only when there is used flex wrap. If you do not use flex wrap, then in that case, there won't be anything. There won't be aligned content, won't be implemented. I hope that makes sense. Am I clear, guys? Am I clear? Now let's quickly try to wrap this conclusion over here. When we talk about our container, with respect to the cross axis, I can move my elements. And in order to do that, we can use a property called as align items. But on the other hand, align items will show its effect with respect to its own row. There is a possibility inside my flex when there are multiple rows inside the container. And if we want to arrange our items with respect to their own individual rows, we can use align items. So it is moving with respect to cross axis, but with respect to their own rows. But on the other hand, if I talk about align content also moves my elements with respect to cross axis, but with respect to the whole container that we have. And if align items, align content, both are used with flex wrap, then align content will be given preference, not the other way around. I hope that makes sense. Am I clear, guys? Am I clear? Now, one very important point over here, which is if I do not use flex wrap, okay, all of these items will be in a single row, right? In that case, if I talk about align content, why is it not getting implemented? Let me write over there space between. If I write space between, does it make any sense? Space between of what? Space between of the elements that we have in terms of cross axis. Do you see any more items in terms of cross axis? No, there's only one element. So it does not make any sense. But on the other way around, if I write flex wrap, then if I simply go right space around or space between here, it makes a complete sense. Because now there are elements, more than one element, in which it's going to arrange the space between them. I hope that makes sense. On the other way around, one other very important point over there. When I use my when I don't use my flex wrap, can we say, please confirm in the chat, this is one of the most important points over there. Can we say in this case, my container is the row? There's only one row. So don't you think that is the container? So container and row is both same. Yes or no? Container and row is both same. Container and row is both same. I want everyone to type yes or no. Of course, yes. So that is why in this case, if you write align items, you will say, sir, when there is no flex wrap, how am I able to see align items moving the items with respect to the container? It is not moving with respect to the container. Since there is only one row, it will move with respect to that row, and that is the container. And this is where we will conclude our flex container properties. Am I clear? Am I clear? I hope that makes sense. Done? Perfectly fine. Let's move forward. Until now, we have seen properties, whether we talk about display flex, whether we talk about flex direction, whether we talk about gap, whether we talk about justify content, align items, align content. All of these properties are implemented on my parent, on my container. They do not get implemented on the child. But if we want to implement our properties on child, what are those properties? So our next discussion that we will have over here is the child properties, the properties that we can implement on the items individually. And I will be very quick around here because there's no point of discussing these thoroughly. I have already a YouTube video on it. You can check that as well, although I can share that as well. I will give you only one or two properties here, and rest of the properties you can understand later on. Align content, Sadi, let me conclude this. When we talk about align content will work when there are multiple rows, first of all, which means there's a flex wrap. So if align content, you want it to show its effect, you must implement flex wrap. That's the most important point. Second thing, align content is a property which will align the items with respect to cross axes, but with respect to the whole container, not with respect to their own rows. Simple as that. That's what we mean by it. I hope this makes sense. Am I clear? Done. If there are still any confusion, you can watch the recording again, and I'm pretty much sure you will understand it properly when you take proper notes. Okay. Let's focus over here on this properties now that I'm going to talk about. There are 5 6 properties which you need to discuss even on your own. I will not show you all of them. Number one is called align self. Okay. Number two is called order. Note these down. Number three is called grow, flex grow. Number three is called shrink, flex shrink. And number five is called flex basis. And number fifth is called flex itself. So I will show you these two properties, these three properties, four properties. You can learn from my YouTube video as well, which I have uploaded specifically on Flex, because I don't think there is too many applications for these four properties. Yes, they are used very much as well. Honestly speaking, I have used them very much, but I think you can understand them on your own as well. And I will share the link of my YouTube channel, my YouTube video in the WhatsApp channel later on as well. Please remind me that after the class, okay? What do we mean by flex item properties? First of all, flex item properties are those properties that we can implement on the items itself, on the items like these items. We can implement them over here one by one. Now, how do we implement properties on flex items? I can simply target them like this. On my item one, please go and implement the properties, where I will implement item one class over here. But we can do it any way. We can implement any selector over here. It's completely up to me. But what I will do is I will implement inline CSS here. There's one type of CSS which we might not have discussed, maybe not. That's called inline CSS. Every element inside our HTML can have a style attribute. So we can simply implement a style attribute over here, in front of which we can write our key value pair properties, and they will be implemented here. For example, for this particular thing, I will implement background color as red, and you can clearly see there's a background color red here. So this is what we mean by inline CSS. That I can implement properties to that element, and they will be implemented to that element only by writing a style attribute. And style attribute is a universal attribute; it can be implemented anywhere. The property that I'm talking about is not background, but the first property is called align self. So what is the property that we have? It's called align self. Now, when we talk about align self, let me write over there start. Okay. So I will simply go write start here, flex start. You can clearly see as soon as I implemented flex start, and on what element I implemented flex start, I implemented flex start on this element, and you can clearly see it told the element only, that particular element, move to the top, move to the top of the container. So align self is a property that we can implement on the elements, and it will move the element with respect to cross axis individually. So like for this, I want it to be at the start. Let's suppose for element 4, I will implement style over there, and I will simply tell it make its align self. And in the align self, I will simply tell it make it flex end. So if I write flex end over there, the element will be moved to the end. Completely up to me. So in a similar way, let's suppose for this element, I would want it to implement a style, and to that style, I will implement align self align that particular thing only, and I will simply tell it please move it to, let's suppose, center, although it's already in center because that's what the align content does, and it is in the center. So my question is, my sorry conclusion is that align self will target the individual item only, and then move it with respect to the cross axis that we have. I hope that makes sense. Moving forward, after this we will discuss one very important property called as order. Okay, called as order. What does order do? When we talk about this flex container, the order of the element is how I have written the items individually. Like one first, then two, then three, then four, then five. Whatever the order in my HTML is, the same order will be implemented in the output as well. There will be nothing, nothing different. But if I want to change the order, by default it's one over here. Order for every element is one. But let me go here and let me simply write order. Order is equals to 2. What does order is equals to 2 means? Order is equals to 2 over here means that I am changing the order, and my elements always will be displayed in the output in increasing order. What is the default order for every flex item? 1. So this is having order 1 by default. This is having order 1. This is having order 1. This is having order 1. So of course, when I write order 2, since 2 is greater than all of the elements, you can see my one element, the one element, this element will be at the last. So now let's change order of this element as well. So I will simply implement order colon is equals, let's put 5. What does 5 mean? At the end. So 2, 5, rest of them are 1, 1, 1. And they'll be in the same order, however they are. But now if I go and write style, in style, I will implement order. Order is equals to 3. So 2, 5, 3. Although it's already 3, let me make it 4. So you can clearly see whatever the numbers I am writing over there, inside the same order, my elements are getting arranged in the output. So if I want to implement order, let me implement order over here as 1, right? And 4 is at 1, 5 is at this. And finally, I will implement style here as well. And for this, I will implement order. Order is equal to 3. So now you can see the 4 element is having order 1, and that's what the order in my output container is. The 1 element is having order 2, 1 element is order 2. My 3 element is having order 4, so order 4. 5 element is having order 3, so order 3. And my 4 element is having order 1 and order 1, and so on and so forth. I hope order makes sense as well. Honestly, I'm not here to make you understand these properties because they are very simple properties. You can understand them on your own by simply watching a simple documentation or video on the internet as well. The only agenda behind this whole is that I want you to understand, when we talk about layout properties are not just for the parent, they are for the individual items as well. I hope this makes sense. Am I clear? Am I clear? Give me a quick reaction in the chat before I move forward and start grid. Quickly. And honestly speaking, I had like, there was a function at my home, honestly, okay? And you know that, right? I have already shared that. I had to take my sister to airport, and I dropped that. I told her to ask my bigger brother, and he will help her, right? Because of this class, because I don't want to miss the class. I wanted to cancel, but then I thought, no, there's no point of canceling the class because I have already canceled two last week, and I cannot keep you in the dark. And I took this class, and finally when I took this class, I can see only 24 students here. That's something that is hurting for me. I do not want to see this number ever again, honestly. And please be active always. That's what I can do. Although I can, it does not affect me. The maximum thing that I can do is I can give you my time. But if I see continuously this number, there might be a possibility that I might close this batch, and that is your loss, not my loss, right? And I don't want to do that, honestly, because I had a noble intention behind this batch, behind starting this batch. So please and please make sure that you understand properly things, okay? And also please be active very much. That's the only thing that I can do. Give me a second, there's a problem with the camera. There's a problem with the camera. Give me a second, let me try to rectify it. You can post it wherever you want. It's completely open to all. Completely open to all. It's completely up to you wherever you want to post it. But I'm not sure why people are not joining. Is it like they already know all of these things? And if they know, then there was no point of joining WhatsApp group and joining this batch, because I wanted those students only who are active, who are really okay and ready to start hard work, doing hard work, and watch all these sessions live, even if they know things. Okay, I guess we can start. Shall we start, guys, again? So over here with this, we have wrapped our flex. I want everyone to take a note before we move forward and start flex. In flex, there are two types of properties that we talked about. Number one is called container properties, okay, which will be implemented only on container. In which the first property that we understood and discussed was display flex. Second property that we discussed was flex direction. Third property that we discussed was gap, column gap or row gap. Fourth property that we discussed was justify content. Fifth property that we discussed was align items. And sixth property that we discussed was flex wrap. And last property that we discussed was align content. So please note down that you know all these properties, because these all properties we have discussed. The second type of properties we have is called the item properties, in which we already discussed align self, okay, and we discussed our order. We have not discussed our flex basis, which is very easy. The initial width of all the elements. Flex grow, how much you want your element to grow with respect to rest of the elements. And then finally flex shrink, how much you want your elements to shrink with respect to rest of the elements when we decrease or increase the width. And last property was flex itself. So discuss these four properties on your own, although I will share a link of YouTube channel as well, and you can watch it from there, okay? We will see whether we will do tailwind or not, but definitely we will use in our projects, we will use tailwind, Rohit, surely, for sure. Okay, now this is all what we have discussed until now. Moving forward, now we'll discuss one of the most important things inside our whole CSS, and that is called two-dimensional layout. Because whenever you go on a website, it's always two-dimensional layout. In most of the case, 80% of layouts and designs that you will see is 2D layout called as grid. Please put a message in the WhatsApp group and ask them that we are starting grid. So if anyone wants to join, please join. And we will learn grid in order to implement our 2D layout. So we will discuss grid layout, similar to what flex is. We know flex, we implement our properties on parent, then we implement our properties on child. In a similar way, in a grid, we will implement our properties on the parent first and then on the child. Okay, so let me put a message in the WhatsApp group quickly, and then we will start again. By the way, in the meantime, do we have any questions? Feel free to put that in the chat. We will start now. Grid, please join. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, all clear? Perfect. Let's start. What do we mean by grid, first of all? Let's try to understand that. In our previous class, in our previous topic, we know that the layout approach that we discussed was all about one dimensional layout. It means either I will arrange my items in a single row or in a single column. Yes, we have a possibility of implementing our two-dimensional layout there as well using flex wrap, but that's only when there is overflow. If there is no overflow, even flex wrap will make my items in a single row or single column depending on what my flex direction is. But let's suppose you have a requirement of implementing a layout where there are more than one columns and more than one rows. How? Let's suppose one of the layouts look like this. Okay, one of the layouts look like this. So this is my layout. Now we will say, sir, this layout can be implemented on flex as well. Of course it can be implemented on flex, but only under one condition: when there's overlapping, when my elements are not fitting in a single row or a single column. Or let's suppose you have a layout that you want to create, and that should look like something like this. The first row should be complete row like this, second row should be having three items, and fourth row should be having two items like this. This is one of the possibilities of our layout. Of course, yes. So how can we implement this two-dimensional layout? According to this layout, we have three rows and three columns in every row. Yes, in one row, it is taking the whole width. In last row, my first item is taking two column width, and the last item is taking one column width. But the point is, this is two-dimensional layout. So how can we create a two-dimensional layout and implement any kind of layout using our grid? And that's what our next agenda will be. Template areas, we can use any of them properties, and we will see what we can do, right? So let me simply go here and let me create a new file with the name of grid. And please pay close attention. So let me quickly go and create grid.html. Okay. Let me create a boilerplate first, basic boilerplate. You can ignore these meta tags and all these things which we have not discussed as of now. And let me go create a div with a class container quickly. Okay. In which I will simply create div with the class over there. Let's suppose item, and then I simply want 9 items there. So let me click enter, and you can clearly see this is what we have done. Very good. We got our parent and we got our all children's. Now over here, I will implement some design, and let me change this, remove this nav bar with what? Let me remove this with grid.html. Perfectly fine. Let's implement some style. So I will go and implement some style. Instead of here, there's one very important thing that I would like to teach you, which I have not done yet. I will create a separate file. There's one third type of CSS called as style.css, I mean external CSS. Whatever CSS you write over here, you can link this file with your HTML as well. And for that, inside your head, we use a link tag in which I simply use href. Href means hyper reference. That the reference of this link page, that is relationship having style sheet, is to style.css. Now, the style.css, whatever CSS I will write over here, it will be implemented on this file. To write all the CSS in the same file, it will be a very big file. So what we do is we separate, we isolate our files and then link them together. In order to link our style file in our head tag, we can use link tag, relationship style sheet, and then reference to that particular style sheet is style.css. Now, over here, I will target my container first of all, and let's implement some height or width to it. So let me go right CSS container, and to this CSS container, the first thing that I will do is I will implement background color, and let me make background color something like this aqua. After that, I will give width, let's say 100% right now. Okay. After that, I will simply give it a height, and let's suppose height over here is, sorry, height over here is, let's say, give it 400, 500, 900 pixel, let's suppose. So it's 900 pixel. So this is what my aqua container looks like. And let me try to decrease the size of it, and let me make it 100. Although 900 is too much, let me make it 600 pixel. Done. And this is how my container looks like. After that, I will simply tell it, inside my container that I have, there is a class, every item called is items. What does this mean? It's a child combinator, child selector. in my container, find the all elements whose class is items, but only the first immediate childs, and implement a design over there. Now, for that, what am I going to do? I am simply going to implement some background color and some style. So let me implement background color, and let's implement background color as something like this, whatever it is. I'm not able to pronounce it, but this is what it is. Okay. And then I will implement the width, and width is, let's suppose, 30% of the parent for every element. And then height over here is my, let's suppose, 100%, 100 pixel. So this is my element. This is how my elements looks like. Of course, as of now, I have not implemented. If you look at the HTML, every element is empty. So let me make some content in it. So A, B, and then C, and then over here, let me go write D, and then let me go write E quickly. And in a similar way, F, and let's go write G, let's go write H. In the meantime, can anyone guys, any of you tell me why all of these elements are in a single column, like they are stacked on top of each other? Why is that? Because that's what the normal flow of my web application is. In whatever order I will write my elements, that is the order exactly over here as well of my output. Now, to arrange them in any order, we have to implement our layout technique. If I go on the container, this parent over there, if I write container, I will write display is equals to flex. They all will be in a single row, because that's what the layout technique I'm implementing. After that, I'm not talking about flex right now. What am I going to do? I am going to tell it grid. But even when I implemented display grid, you do not see any change in the output. Do you see any change in the output? Of course not. There's nothing in the output. Nothing is happening. Why is that? Why is that? Because this time, first of all, you need to understand grid is not going to change the layout on its own. But in order to implement, tell it what the layout I want, you have to implement few of the properties. Okay. What's that property? What is it that we want? We want to create two-dimensional layout. Now, when we say two-dimensional layout, what is it that you require? Number of columns, number of rows. Yes or no? The first and the most important thing to create a two-dimensional layout is that you must know what the number of columns is, what the number of rows is. Yes or no? Of course, yes. In order to tell my container how many number of columns you have to create, you have to divide your items into the property that we use called grid template columns. So property to determine how many columns we want in our application, we on the container use a property called as grid template columns. And in front of it, you simply write the width of every column separated by a space. Let's suppose I will simply tell it, the first column, there's only one column that I want, and that column should have 200 pixels. The second column should be, let's suppose, 300 pixels, something like this. Fourth column over there, that third column that I want to create is, it should have 150 pixels. So the values that you put and separate them with a space, it will determine how many columns we want. As of from, you can see I have written three values. So first column is 200 pixel, second column is 300 pixel, third column is 150 pixel, and you can clearly see the difference there as well. If you want them same, let me go write 200 pixel this, let me go write 200 pixel this, and in this case you can clearly see they are same as well, having the same width. Done. Hey Sarita, so we have to understand what grid template columns does. It does two things. Note these down. Number one thing that it does is it determines how many columns we want. So if you want four columns, write four values separated by a space. If you want five columns, write five values separated by a space. And then every value determines what is the width of each column. I hope that makes sense. Now, when you write, I according to my HTML structure, I have 9 items here. Now, don't you think when I will tell it grid template columns 200, 200, 200, it automatically determines two things: number of columns as well as number of rows. Don't you think it determines both? Everything by default will be a rectangular box model, Basu, right? Box model, everything. And height over there is determined by the item. Then width is 200 pixel, 200 pixel, 200 pixel, like this. Okay, guys, quickly tell me one thing here. When I implement this property here, don't you think it automatically determines two things: number of columns as well as the number of rows? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Very good. Why? Because I have 9 items. If I know that there are 3 columns, it automatically means there will be 3 rows as well. Right? Simple as that. I will come to that, Adil, in a bit. After that, now since we know a property with the help of which we can determine the width of each column, there's one another property called as grid template rows. This will determine the height of each row. Template columns determine the width of each column. Rows will determine the height of each row. So I will simply go, let's suppose 200 pixels is the height here. Then over here, I will simply 100 should be the height of second row. And then third thing over there is, let's suppose 20 pixels should be the height of another row. So that's what we are doing over there. We are determining the height of each row over there. Let me implement this 200 as well. And let me implement this and 200 as well. So this will determine the height. Now there's, if you 4 columns, of course, in that case, it will arrange in a similar way. So 200 pixel, 9 divided by 4 means 4 rows. So you can, sorry, 3 rows, but 4 columns. So 4 columns, 3 rows. If you write one another, let's suppose I will write 200 pixel again. So there will be 5 columns, meaning 2 rows only, because I have 9 items. So it entirely depends on that. I hope that makes sense. Okay. These two properties make sense. Now, there's one question Adil asked, although this was not in my mind, but let's try to understand what it is. If you are a web developer already, and if you have created websites earlier in front of grid template columns or grid template rows, there are 2 types of values that you very often see. What are those? As of now, you can see this is same, this is same, this is same. You sometimes see a value like this: auto, 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 like this. And you can clearly see something happened. Or instead of this, you see something like this: 1FR, 1FR, 1FR. And you can see the output. Or sometimes you see 1FR, 3FR, 2FR, something like this. But what is the meaning of these FRs and autos? And if I am the interviewer, honestly, I have taken hundreds of interviews for different candidates for different roles in one top companies, honestly. And this is one of the questions that I would definitely ask: the difference between FR and auto. Let's try to understand that by using our whiteboard. Be patient. Try to understand what I'm trying to say. Let's suppose this is my container. This is my container. This is my container. In this container, what I will do is I will divide my web application into 3 columns. Is there any background noise from my side, guys? Sir, thoda confusion. What is the confusion? Please put that in the chat. So this is what we have. 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 Let's suppose this is what I am creating. Okay, please try to understand. Sir, 200 pixel width. Yes, it's a width. I will come back to that. Basu, I will come back to that. Please pay attention here. Let's suppose the width of the container that I have determined is 600 pixel. Okay, 600 pixel. What I'm doing is, in order to create 3 columns, what is the property that I might have used? I might have used a property called as grid template columns, like this, in front of which maybe I might have, since these are all equal, I might have written 150 pixel, let's suppose 150 pixel and 150 pixel, right? This simply means if I write grid template columns 150, 150, 150, it means inside the container on which I am using it, create 3 columns, and every column should have width of the item as 150 pixel, 150 pixel, 150 pixel. That's what it means. But on the other hand, instead of 150, 150, 150, or instead of 100, 200, 300, sometimes you see auto, auto, auto. Okay, what does it mean? It means divide the width of the container into 3 equal parts. Let's suppose there's no margin implemented, there's no padding implemented. Okay, I'm not taking in consideration margin and padding. So there is 600 pixel total width. Auto means whatever the available space of the container is divided equally into three parts. So each column will have how many pixels of width? How many pixels of width? Very good. How many pixels of width, everyone, guys? I cannot see all the answers. 600 equally into three parts. What will be the each width? It will be 200 pixel, 200 pixel, 200 pixel. Yes or no? Because that's what auto means. Divide whatever the available space of container is into three equal parts. That's it. On the other hand, sometimes you will see one FR, one FR, one FR. By the way, FR stands for fractions of the available space. Now, one FR, one FR, one FR. How much FRs there? Three FRs. It also means divide the available space of the container into these many fractions. So I am dividing my 600 pixel into 1 plus 1 plus 1, 3FR. So 3FR is equals to 600 pixels, which means 1FR is equals to 600 divided by 3 is equals to 200 pixel. So even in this case, it is 200 pixel. Am I clear? Do you understand what I'm trying to say as of now? Very good. If I'm clear, very good. But when we talk about fractions, there's a possibility I can write 2 here, I can write 3 here. There's a possibility. I can actually, instead of writing 1FR, 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 I can write 1FR, 2FR, 3FR. So in this case, if I consider this, if I take this into consideration, 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6. So 6FR is equals to 600 pixels. Now, what is 1FR in this case? 600 divided by 6, which means 100 pixel. So in this case, 1FR determines 100 pixel. So in this case, this will be 100 pixel, this will be 200 pixel, and this will be 300 pixel. But you cannot write 1 auto, 2 auto, 3 auto. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. So auto is auto. Auto is auto. Okay, but on the other hand, FR can vary. FR can be 10 FR, 20 FR, 30 FR, 1000 FR, 4000 FR, 100,000 FR. And accordingly, it will simply divide my width into number of fractions that I am using. I hope that should be clear. Let me use one another example here. Let me remove all of this. And let's talk about one other example. There might be a background noise. Please be a little bit patient with respect to that. Let's understand one small example. The total width of my grid template, total width of my container is 600 pixel. Now I will simply write 100 pixel, 200 pixel, and for let's suppose 300 pixel, or let's suppose 200 pixel. Guys, can anyone tell me what this means? What this means? 100 pixel, 200 pixel, 200 pixel. What this means? It simply means that the first column over here will be 100 pixel, second column will be 200 pixel, third column will be 200 pixel, but it will create only three columns, right? It does not depend on what is the width of the container. If the width is less, there might be overflow, maybe, but it does not depend on that, right? But on the other hand, instead of writing it like this, I will write auto, I will write 200 pixel, and then I will write auto. Try to understand what I'm trying to say. This is something very important. Although it was not in my mind that I have to teach this, but please and please pay close attention. What it will do is, it will not give it directly this. No, but it will make my second column as 200 pixel. Now, when it makes second column as 200 pixel, how much is remaining? How much is remaining? 400 pixel, because that's what the total width is, 600. So 200 is given to second column, 400 is remaining. Now 400 will be divided into two equal parts. Another example. Let's suppose I will write 100 pixel. I will write 400 pixel. Now instead of 400 pixel, let me use some other value. Instead of this, let me say 250 pixel, and then let me say auto. Now, what it means is the first column will be 100 pixel, second column will be 200 pixel, 50 pixel. Auto will be the remaining available space. So 100 plus 250 is 350. So this will be given 250 automatically. So it's not necessary ever at auto. Auto can be anywhere. It is simply the requirement that I want this to take available space, whatever the available space is. So if I write something like this, I will write auto, and 50 pixel. Can you guys tell me what is the auto in this case? What will be this and what will be this? I will give you 1 minute of time. Take your time and tell me in the chat quickly. Quickly, guys, what will be the auto here? I will come back to one FR quickly. What will be this over here? So two autos, 50 is given. So now both of them are remaining to 550. Now 550 will be divided into two equal parts. So auto means whatever the available space is, take that. I hope that makes sense. Is auto clear? Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. Is auto clear? Is auto clear? Done? 275 actually. Yes. Is auto clear? Done? Very good. Perfectly fine. Moving forward. Now let's talk about FR, FR, FR. What FR means. What is my available space? 600 pixel. Let's suppose I write 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR here. Now, in this case, it will simply add these three FRs. This with this with this. So what it is? It becomes 3FR. 3FR is equals to 600 pixel. Is that correct? That's the mathematics. So in this case, if you divide, take this there, my 1FR will become 200 pixel. So automatically it means it's a fraction. Exactly. Fractions of available space. So 200 pixels. So this will be 200, 200, 200. But on the other case, this is a very simple example. But on the other case, let's suppose I will make this 2FR and I will make this 10FR. Let's use big numbers. So it is 1FR, 2FR, and 10FR. What will FR represent here? That's something very important. What is my available space? 600. So 1 plus 2 is 1 plus 2 is 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 10 is 13. So 13 FR becomes 600 pixel. So 1 FR becomes 600 divided by 30. Right? And that is something like 38 pixels, something like that, whatever the mathematics says. So you need to understand that when we talk about FRs, it is also talking about the available space. But 1 FR, in front of FR, you can write any number. Yes, you can do that. 1 FR, auto, 2 FR. You can do that as well. But in this case, you have to understand auto will be available space, whatever it determines, and FR understands like this. Let's talk about it with the help of an output, with the help of an website example as well. But before that, am I clear with theory part? In front of auto, you cannot write 2 auto. You cannot write 3 auto. But in front of FRs, you can write it properly however you want. I hope that makes sense. Am I clear? Am I clear, guys? Yes or no? Am I clear? Everyone, am I clear? Do you understand what we mean by fractions and what is the difference between FR and auto? Right? Very good. Let's move forward and let's try to understand it with the help of an example. I will give width to my container over there. Let me give a small width and let's suppose it is 600 pixel. Done. So I have 600 pixel over here. Now over here, see what's happening. Now 600 pixel width is exactly this much. So 1 plus 3 is 1 plus 3 is 1 plus 3 is 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 6 is 4 plus 2 is 6. So 6 divided by 600 pixels is 100 pixel. So 1 FR should be 100 pixel if we don't take margin padding into consideration. Let's go and let's try to see what is the width of each item here. So let me go to inspect and I will try to find an element over there. Let's put something like this. And to this element A, let me try to find its width. Okay, and let's see what the width of this element is. So what is the width? What is the width? Width is 80 pixel. Width is 80 pixel. Now you will say, sir, no, item 1 was 1 FR. Why is it not 100? That might be a question. Yes or no? Is that a question? Sir, it should be 100. Why is it 80? Because that's what 1 FR came to us. It must be 80. But you are forgetting one thing. On every item, if you look at this particular web document, what is the margin that I'm implementing? What is the margin? 10 pixel on both sides. On left side 10 pixel, on right side 10 pixel. So 10 plus 10 is equals 20. 20 plus 80 is 100. So of course 1 FR is 100 if we take margin into consideration. Am I clear? Am I clear? So this is what we mean by FR. 1 FR. But also remember that this 3 FR will be now relative to 1 FR. So FRs mean they are relative. Autos are not relative. Autos are not dependent on another element. No. So if my one element is 1 FR, 3 FR means it is 3 times more than this element, this width component. That's what the difference is. I hope this makes sense. and I hope we can conclude our FR and auto discussion over here. Am I clear? Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. Done? Perfectly fine. Very good. Let's move forward. Now we have seen two, three properties here. We have discussed grid template columns. We have discussed grid template rows. Before I move forward, we will take a break of 10 minutes. Exactly at 11:15, we are going to resume our session. Just if you increase their rows by one more value, what will happen? If we increase rows, we can increase columns, and with that, we can decrease columns. With that, we can increase our rows, Basu. Like I can simply remove this, okay, and it will make one more row over there. You can see one row, two row, three row, four rows, and even five row because there are 9 items. So you can increase that. In that case, this 1 plus 3 FR will become 6. In that case, 1 FR will increase. It's a fraction. It is relative to the available space. And it will do its mathematics, and it will simply give you whatever it needs to give you. Whatever the result is, whatever the width is. You can check it from the inspect tool as well as how I have seen it. I have shown you, right? You can do that. So we will take a break of 10 minutes. Exactly at 11:16, we are going to resume. And I'm really sad, right? Then how rows are calculated? Tell me one thing, Basu. Okay, I'm not sure why this question is there. Let's talk about normally in a common way. I have 10 items. Okay, Basu, I have 10 items. And I want to arrange these 10 items. I have 10 students. I want to arrange them into two columns. How many rows will be there? I have 10 students. I have 10 students and I have two columns. How many rows will be there? Five automatically. 10 divided by 2, 5 rows. Simple, right? So rows depend on number of columns. So if I have told it that number of rows should be 2, automatically since there are 9 items, so 9 divided by 2 is 4.5, meaning 5 rows. So if I have 20 students and in there are 3 columns, so how many rows will be there? 20 divided by 3, meaning 7, 6 point something, meaning 7 rows. It's mathematics, simple mathematics, right? So now we will take a break of 10 minutes. Exactly at 11:17, we are going to resume our class and we will continue our discussion on grid. And this is something very important now. Okay, please and please pay attention and be here. Don't leave the class. Unfortunately, we have to do a proper discussion. Then how 200 pixel of rows is coming? 200 pixel. See over here. Let's try to understand one thing here. Okay, you're talking about that if this is 200, 200, 200, why is this also 200, 200, right? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying, Basu? You need to understand one very important point, that these items, although I have implemented its own height as well, I can remove that because now items height does not make any sense. Now see, when I remove that height over this, something happened. See, by default, when I implement this, every row was 100, not 200. There's one slight mistake that you are doing. You are getting confused with this particular thing, that every row is 200. Every row is not 200 here. It is 100 because I've specifically told every element to be 100. But if I remove this, you can see the first element is 200, this is 200, this is 200, and then this is random, like depending on the content. This does not have any height, this does not have any height. But yes, if I make this, let's suppose 100 pixel, if I make this, let's suppose 50 pixel, then in that case height is determined. And you can see this is how it is works. I hope that makes sense. So I specifically had implemented height over the of every element. So every element height was same, but it depends on grid template rows if height is not mentioned. But if height is mentioned like this, height is equals to 50 pixel, then every element will be 50 pixel. It does not matter after that this, right? On this. That's what the mathematics here is. I hope that makes sense. So let's take finally now a break. So it is at 11:19 we are going to start again. Break of 10 minutes, 11:19 we will resume. Okay? Don't leave the class because now it's going to be very important discussion. Hey guys, hi everyone, welcome back. I hope I'm audible. Am I? Hello guys, am I audible? Hi everyone. Hello guys, hi everyone. Am I audible? Am I audible? I think I should be audible, right? Perfect, great. Let's start. So someone was asking, okay, Adil was asking, what's min-max in Grid? Min-max is one of the very good functionalities in Grid. Although, these things I was not supposed to teach in today's class, but since you guys have asked these things in the chat, so let's try to quickly understand what this min-max is actually, right? So let's suppose I have simply one FR, simply one FR, one FR, one FR. What does that mean? That means there will be three columns, and every column will have equal width, right? And let me give height of this particular width of the entire container as 100%. Now if I try to drag it down, although not like this, so how do we, not like this, not like this, so let me get it out and I will simply try to drag it like this. You can see that my grid or flex, they are try to be responsive, right? In most of the cases their responsiveness kind of gets scattered, not scattered. But what I would say is that if I try to reduce the size over there, you can clearly see they try to shrink themselves as much as they can, right? After this they cannot shrink. Why? Because every column's row, and you can understand that now there's a proper width, and that width is being maintained properly here. But now let's suppose what I want to do, Adil, is I want for a specific column, I want to implement a min max. Let's suppose I will implement min max, and that is, let's suppose, 200 comma 250 pixel, right? So 200 pixel comma 250 pixel. This is what I am doing min max for my web applications first column. Now if I try to drag this particular thing, if I try to see how much it will expand itself, you need to understand one thing over here. There's one very important point that's happening here. Let's use bigger numbers here to make it properly visible. Let's suppose 300 and 350 pixel. Okay. See, min max, minimum value is 300, maximum value is 350 pixel. It means when we try to shrink them or grow them, the minimum value of the first column that it will shrink to will be 300 pixel. It will not shrink more than 300 pixel. You can see when I try to shrink these, as of now they are same. Almost the first element is much more, second column is much more larger, third column is much more larger. And now if I try to shrink them, you can see my first column will never shrink beyond 300 pixel. 300 pixel, beyond this they will not shrink, trust me. And when I say 350 pixel, you can see it will expand. A is also expanding right now, but as soon as it expands to 350 pixel, it will not expand more than that. That's what we mean by min max. So when we try to shrink it, it will shrink maximum to 300 pixel, and it will expand maximum to 350 pixel. That's it. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's what we have understood from this. I teach those courses honestly. Adil, when I am in a batch, when I take normal classes, I charge too much there for a single 1 hour. And I'm giving you this free content. So at least respect that, everyone, right? I trust me, I am teaching those courses as well. Even recently, not recently, but in next month, I have to go to Madhya Pradesh, and over there I have to teach one of the courses offline for a month. So there are opportunities, there are courses that demand me honestly, but I still want to give you my time because this is what makes me happy. But it makes will make me happy only under one condition, and only I will continue with this when I will see a response from all of you, right? So please do that. I hope this min max is also clear. I hope this min max is quite understood what it means, right? So let me make it 1 FR. Now there's one very important point that we need to understand here. Remember, in our remember one very important point. In our Flexbox, to move our elements, we learn two of the axes, main axis and cross axis. Okay, main axis and cross axis. In a similar way, in grid, there's one concept called as grid lines. Grid lines. When we talk about our grid, With respect to this aqua, you can see a greenish, not greenish, bluish background. This is a container. With respect to this, there are grid lines. Number one line is this line. Number two line is this line. Number three line is this line. And number four line is this extreme line. Okay. So these are called column lines. So this is column line one, column line two, column line three, column line four. So these are called grid column lines. Now, with respect to rows, this will be my first line. This will be my second line. This will be my third line. And this will be my fourth line. These lines are called row lines. Now, if we want to move our elements, or if we want to shrink our element, expand our element, we have to use the concept of grid lines only. So if I try to show you it over here, this will be my first column line, second column line, third column line, fourth column line, first row line, second row line, third row line, fourth row line, right? Fourth row line. So these are column lines, grid row lines, grid column lines. So with respect to grid, when you want to expand your element, you want it to take two columns instead of one column. We actually use a concept of column lines or grid lines, and that plays one of the very important role inside a grid, because with help of that you can create any kind of layout honestly. So let's try to understand that. And before that, there's one very important point. Since we know this is a 2D structure, which means it is a grid, column as well as a row. Now, if you want to expand this column gap or row gap, there's one very important set of properties that we use on grid called as column gap or row gap. So I can simply use column gap. So let's suppose column gap is equals 30 pixels. So it means every column will have 30 pixels. On the other hand, I can implement row gap. Row gap is equals 20 pixel. Every row will have 20 pixel gap. So you need to understand that there are two types of gaps inside a grid: column gap as well as row gap. Column gap will implement column gap, row gap will implement row gap. I hope that's also understood. Done? Perfectly fine. And let me try to comment these two lines of code as of now. Now let's pay a close attention here. Let's try to understand now one very important point. We have discussed our properties that we want to implement on our container, because container will determine only one type of thing here, although there are few more properties of container which we will discuss maybe at the end of today's session or in the tomorrow session. This one very important point now, which is item properties, because grid is supposed to determine how many rows we want, how many columns we want. But on the other hand, if I talk about items will determine how much I have to expand myself, how much I have to expand column wise or row wise. So for that, what I will do is I will simply go and over here, with respect to every item, I will give one another class. So item one, item two, and in a similar way, item three, in a similar way, item four, in a similar way, item five, and in a similar way, item six, and in a similar way, item seven, because I will now, write properties on the elements individually. So item eight, and finally item nine. And let me give it like this. Now, let's suppose I want, and you guys please help me a little bit here because I don't know this concept. Okay, let's suppose I don't know this concept. You guys will help me a little bit. What I want to do is I want to create a layout, and that layout looks like, let's take any example. Let's suppose this is what the layout looks like. So my first element will expand to all of these things. Second element will be something like this, and third element will be something like this. Although let's say instead of this only expands to here, let me say it goes from here to here. So this is the layout that I want. So this is my A item, B item, C item, D item, E item. This is the layout that I want. Am I clear? Perfectly fine. Keep this layout in your mind, in your brain. Okay. Now, according to this layout that I have created, how many grid lines I need? This is grid line column 1, grid line column 2, grid line column 3, grid line column 4. So in order to tell my first element to expand itself and take entire row, don't you think I will simply tell it start from grid column line number 1, grid column line 4, and at 4. Of course, I will use template areas later on as well because that's the most easiest way. But we will discuss all of the properties. So we will simply tell it for my item A, my grid column start is 1, grid column end is 4. Yes or no? In a similar way, this is row line number 1, row line number 2, row line number 3, row line number 4. For my D, I will simply tell it grid row start is 2, grid row end is 4. So if you are able to visualize the lines in terms of columns and in terms of rows, and then try to understand how much it has to explain itself. What is the start column line? What is the end column line? What is the start row line? What is the end row line? If you decide to do that, if you understand that, you will be able to understand any type of layout. For example, over here for this item 1, let me go and let me simply say for my item 1. What I want to do is I simply want the first property to determine what should be the grid column start. While it will start, it will be the property will be grid column start, which means start from here. Then another property over here is grid column end. And in this case, I will simply go tell it 4. Now, when I am telling it 4, don't you think it has expanded itself to end? Because that's what I've told it. Start from here and end at grid column number 4. Now, according to this layout, I don't need 9 items. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me have only 5 items. Let me remove these 4 items. Or let's comment them out. So we can clearly understand that A is right now expanding itself with respect to columns. So columns start 1, column and 4. And that's what exactly you can visualize on your own as well. But now let's suppose for this E, if you look at this E is from here to here. So what will be the column start and what will be the column end? Can anyone tell me that quickly in the chat? For my E, what is the column start? What is the column end? Tell me that quickly. Tell me that quickly. Tell me that quickly. So of course, for my E, which means for my item 5, please go and implement grid column start. Grid column start. And what is the grid column start here? Grid column start is line number 1. Done. It's line number 1. But after that, what is the grid column end? Of course, 3. So Control C, Control V, I will make it end over here and I will make it 3 like this. And you can clearly see my E starts from here and ends here. Now for my D, do I have to change it with respect to column lines or grid line, row lines? If we talk about D according to this layout that we have, do I have to expand my item with respect to column or with respect to row? Of course, with respect to row. So I will simply go target my item 4 and then will tell it for this, please make grid row start as not 3 but as 2, because that's what the row start was. After that, please go and implement it my grid row end and make it 4. So grid row end is 4, right? So if I make it 4, this is how my element looks like. But there's still one problem here. What is that? I did fixed my row start, I did fixed my row end. But if you talk about this layout, I am not able to get this layout. But for this, don't you think you have to fix its column start and column end as well? So over here, I will simply use the same 2 properties like this. So let me simply go paste it like this. Sorry. Let me copy this and let me paste it here. And then I will tell it, please make it 3 and then make it 4. And once I do that, you can clearly see you got the layout that you wanted to create. So if you understand for any layout, you want to determine any layout, you understand what are the grid row lines, grid row column lines, you will be able to create any type of layout that you think of. Am I clear? Am I clear, yes or no? Am I clear? Everyone, am I clear? Let's take an example of the internet. And I will use these 4 properties only. I can use a better property, which I will show you. But as of now, I will use a very simple, these set of 4 properties. So let me go write CSS layouts. Okay. And let me open up our image. And inside images, let's suppose I want to create a layout that looks like this. This is the layout that I want to create. Focus, pay attention. 1 item, 2 item, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 items. Help me with it. I want you to help me a little bit. So let me try to uncomment up till 8. So up till here, I will try to uncomment this. So let me remove this and let me try to comment only the last line. Okay. So I will simply remove and comment this line. Done. So how many items I have? I have 8. So with respect to this layout, this is the layout of my web application containers that I want to create. So how can I create this? Try to understand this layout with respect to the grid lines. What is the row start? What is the row end? what is the column start, what is the column. You can do it now. Very good. That is the confidence that I want. You simply define 8 items, define container of it, and then determine what the grid lines are. And it's a piece of cake. Piece of cake, honestly. But only if your concepts are clear. Right? So let's do this. So I will simply go over here and I will simply target these items. Let's suppose this is my item one. Can you guys tell me what is it that I'm going to do? Grid column start is this, grid column end is two, because that's what it is. One, two. Very good. Then after that, what is it that we need? Grid row start. So grid row start is equals to what? Is equals to one. And then grid column, grid row end is, quickly tell me. Grid row end is 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me make it 4. Done. So we are done with our item 1. I can do it. I have explained it. I have completely done it. Item 1. Let's talk about item 2. So item 2 is, let's suppose this is my item 2. This green one is my item 2. So let's simply go write item 2. And for this item 2 and also for item 1, let me make background color of this is as green. Let's create exactly same layout. So for my item 2, tell me, there are only two properties that I have to use. What is that? Grid row start, grid column end. So control C and control V. Grid column start is 2 and grid column end is 3, 4. So let me go and use 4. Done. And also the background color of this is green, like this. Done. Very good. In a similar way, help me with column 3. So let's go and write grid item 3. And for item 3, even it's better to fix rows as well in this case. Because if you don't fix rows, in that case, there might be ambiguity there. So grid row start is 1 and grid row end is 2. Now I will copy the same properties for all of the items and you will help me what we need to do. Come on, tell me. For item 3, let's suppose this is my item 3. Grid column start is 1, 2, 3, 4. So grid column start is 4 and then grid column end is 5. Done. Then grid row start 1, 2. It's done. And then this is red. So let me simply go and implement it reddish. Done. Perfectly fine. For my item 4. So for my item 4, what is my item 4? Let's keep item 4 as normally. So this is 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's keep them as they are, right? But I will simply implement background color. So let me implement background color and the background color is orange. Done. For my item 5, let me keep item 5 as it is. Let me try to comment these lines over here. So control slash, let me comment them and I will simply go implement a background color as a red. After that, item 6, item 4, let me remove this. Then for my item 5, 6, sorry. Item 6, what is item 6? Background color is red. So let me implement background color and let's say red. Done. And then item 7. There is a huge possibility it might not be exactly same, but we are trying our best to keep it same. So background color is not red, but it is green. Now after that, finally, one last item, my item 8. For my item 8, there are two properties that let's use all of those. So let me simply copy all of these properties and let me simply paste it here. Now grid row column start, grid column start is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5. It's done. Then grid row start 2, 3, 4, 2, 4. So I will simply go implement 2, 4. Now let's see how the output looks like. So if I go, although my background colors are not implemented, but if I try to expand it, there's one very important item, that is C item. The C item, what is the C item? Okay, C item's width is somehow not, okay, because I have not implemented column like that. Very good. So now I will simply go and tell it 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 columns should be also 1 FR. So let me implement 1 FR like this. So don't you see, this is exactly what we wanted to create? The exact same output. Although background color is not getting implemented, we will see why they are not getting implemented. But don't you think this layout is exactly what we have here? Yes or no? So let me remove this background color here. Now once we remove it, we got our layout. Exactly same layout that we saw in the Google. I was not prepared for it. I did not. I just searched it. I found it and we implemented it. But only under one condition, when we had our concepts clear. If you know where from your elements will start, where exactly it's going to end, you are done. Give me a quick confirmation. Give me a quick confirmation. Everyone, I need a like for this video as well. If you understood this properly, if you enjoy this, how we can create a layout like this video right now. Right now, guys, tell me one thing. Let's suppose there's one another layout, although we will not create any layout, but let's talk about any layout. Will you be able to create these layouts now, these layouts? Although we need to understand a lot of other things in it. Like, it's not like we have understood web development. No, it's simply a simple layouts. Now, to create websites out of these layouts is something, a task, and which we will do. And one of the projects, as I said, and one of the days when I will have holiday in my main job, on that day we will take 3 to 4 hours of live session continuously, and we will do a project where we will discuss any layout and create it from the beginning to end, a wonderful website, maybe clone of anything, whatever you will tell me, we will create that, whatever. At the same time, even you will tell me, sir, create YouTube, we will create YouTube. Not 100% similar, but at least 80% of that, but only under one condition: when you guys are active, right? Because if you are not, and as of now, only for this class, I'm expecting accepting 27 students, not after that. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Does it make sense? Any layouts can be created now. Any website you think of, now these layouts, you can create all of them. Let me close it and let's complete these set of properties. Understand one thing. For this item 1, there are 4 properties that I have used: grid column start, grid column end, grid row start, grid row end. What I can do is, instead of these 2 properties using separately, I can use a shorthand property, and that shorthand property is called a grid column. Okay, and this grid column, I will simply add 1/2. That's it. And do you see any change in the output? Of course not. So this grid column start, grid column end, these 2 properties can be combined into one called as grid column. So grid column, we will do a portfolio project. Done. We will create a portfolio. That's it. Okay, we will create a portfolio. Sorry, don't worry about it. So grid column 1/2, this is a shortened property of grid column start and grid column end. So you don't have to when you know that you have to use these 2 properties separately, you don't have to write them separately. You can put both of these properties into one. So basically, let me tell you what it means. So grid column, it simply means that it will be simply grid column start / grid column end. So when we write values like this, 1 will be automatically associated with grid column start, 2 will be associated with grid column end. That's it. That's what it means. Simple as that. Simple as that. So this is shorthand properties of these 2 properties combined. I hope that makes sense. Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. This one another variation that you might see. Okay. For example, if you look at this element that I have here, you can see I have grid row start, grid row end as well, right? I can also convert this grid row start and grid row end into single shortened property called as grid row. And in this, I can simply write the same value, 1/4, where 1 will be associated with grid column start, grid row start, 4 will be associated with grid row end. And you can clearly see it's still the same output, but also one very important, another variation over here. Now, guys, if you look at this, it is starting from grid row 1, line number 1. But how much it's expanding itself? Kitna फैल रहा है? कितने lines को फैल रहा है? Can anyone tell me how many lines it's expanding itself? 1 line, 2 line, 3 line. So it's spanning itself to 3 lines. If you don't know what the grid lines is, sometimes you are not comfortable around grid lines. Like, you have to count. For example, if I have to make this, I will simply start from 1, then I will count 2, 3, 4. Don't do that. You simply can implement the same thing like this. Okay, I will tell it. Simply start from here and expand to 3 more lines. For that, instead of writing 4, I will simply tell it span to more 3 lines over here. So 1/span 3 means start from 1 and then expand to 3 more grid lines. That's what span means. Am I clear? Do we understand what span means? So when you see in front of grid column or a grid row or a grid area later on, If you see any of these properties, any of these keywords, span, it means simply start from here and expand yourself to 3 lines, 3 more lines, right? Let's take an example of this over here. So we know that grid column start is 2, grid column end is 4, right? I will simply implement grid and then grid column like this, right? And over here, instead of implementing it like this, what I will do is I will simply tell it start from 2. But then what is the end line? 4. It means it has to expand itself to more 2. It has to expand itself to 2 more lines. So I don't have to write grid line. I can simply write span to 2 more lines. So it means start from 2 and expand yourself, expand this element to 2 more grid lines. That's what span means. So can't we write 1/4? What does that mean? Of course, I can write 1/4. That's what I did earlier. Even 1/4 is also same, Basu. 1/4 is same. Or I told you there's one other variation that you might see on the internet or any other projects, which is span. If you saw somewhere span, you should know what span means, right? That's why I use span. Otherwise, you can use only grid lines. That's it. So when I say span, span means इसको कितना फैलाना है, फैला हुआ बिजनेस है ना, तो उसी फैले हुए बिजनेस को यहाँ पे इंप्लीमेंट करना है. That's what it means, nothing else. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So whenever we have 4 properties like this, and I know I have to implement grid column start, grid column end, instead of using these 2 properties separately, I will use a shortened property, combine these 2 into one. There's one other thing, grid row start, grid row end. Whenever I know that I have to use these 2 properties, instead of using these 2 properties separately, I will use one. But also one other very important point, there's this easiness. The only thing that you need to do is you need to understand the things. CSS is the most easiest and fun topic that you can learn. Trust me. When I was fresher, I found too many difficulties. Even I used to teach CSS properly as well, but based on documentation. Do you know where from I learned my CSS? How I made my concepts very clear. Documentations do not teach you everything. I learned CSS from browser when I went to inspect. I learned CSS. I have CSS. I have a very good hold on CSS. Like I know proper definitions of most of the concepts, which I have at least discussed. So I learned them from inspector tool. I learned them from computer styles from browser, not from documentation. Documentation simply used to give me definitions, what they are supposed to do. The real essence of these concepts I learned from my browser, honestly speaking. Moving forward. Now, when I have all of these 4 properties there in my web development, I can convert these 4 properties into 2, grid column and grid row. But even there's a better solution to this. When I have these 4 properties, I can convert them into a single property as well, called as grid area. So grid area is a shortened property of these 4 properties combined. Grid column start, grid column end, grid row start, grid row end is a shortened property. The grid area is the shortened property of these 4 properties combined. Now, what's the order? The order is grid row start. What is the grid row start according to this? What is the grid row start? It is 1. So I will go and write 1. Slash grid column start, not column row end. First 2 values will determine start. So grid row start is 1, grid column start is 4. Done. Slash. Then grid row end is 2. Slash. Grid column end is 5. Now, when I implement this, even in this case, the solution is same. So these 4 properties are exactly what you can write it like this. If you have 4 properties, you are implementing 4 properties of an element. Instead of using them separately, this is the better way. What we can do is we can use single property called as grid area, in which I can write it in this way. If you have to note it down, please note it down like this. When we write grid area is a shorter property where it is simply grid row start, then slash grid row, grid column start, then slash grid row end, and then slash grid column end. Okay, so we have these 4 ways, these 4 properties clubbed and spaced by a slash. So grid area is grid row start, grid column start, grid row end, grid column end. I hope this makes sense. And over here, we will wrap up our class because I have to go to airport and I have some work over there. Okay. So let me share my what is this called attendance link as well. In the meantime, I have a small request which you are not following. Honestly, you are not following that. I don't know why. If you think I am giving you my effort and if you respect that, I have a small request. Once this video is done, please put a valuable feedback in the comment section. Okay. Not only that, share this, put this class as a status and let people know about the scores. Okay. So please and please, I request all of you to put comment, a valuable comment if you respect my effort and if you think I am giving you something. Only for that, once this class is done, put a comment, because these comments that you put right now, they are live comments. They are not visible on your this video after it's published. So once it's published, watch it again if possible. If not, put a feedback comment there and let me know what the proper feedback is. Honest feedback always. Okay, honest feedback. So give me the feedback of at least right now in the comment section, and then you can give later on once it's published. Quickly, am I clear? So in our next class, there's one last property of grid that we have to do called as grid template areas. So there's one another property with respect to this which we have discussed in tomorrow's class, and after that we will discuss forms tomorrow. And once we are done with forms, then we will take one last class on the miscellaneous properties around our HTML and CSS, and we are done. So this one session and next week 2 sessions. These are the 3 sessions that we will take on HTML, CSS, and we are done. And then we will start a project or JavaScript. We will see what we have to do. Okay. So there's a form as well, attendance form. Please submit it as soon as you can. So thank you so much, guys, for watching this session. I hope you have enjoyed. I will keep the session open for next 4 or 5 minutes so that you can get the link out of it and you can mark your attendance. Google Class ID, I will share that in the, although there's a link in the WhatsApp description, Rohit Kumar. There's a link. And also one other very important point, in Google Classroom, I have launched a few assignments, right? I will try to increase the deadline of the last assignment. Please implement that. We will see what we can do with this with Tailwind, although that's not currently in the syllabus, Rohit. Sabya Vora, Google Classroom ID. As I said, it's already inside the WhatsApp group description, Google Classroom link. So you can join it from there, okay? But make sure you do the assignments there, and also you submit the assignment attendance link here, because attendance makes very important impact. You will get placement assistance, you will get mock interview assistance, free, all of that, only if your attendance is 75% and only if your assignment score is greater than 70%. Okay. So thank you so much, guys. Bye, everyone, and see you in the next class. That's tomorrow. Thank you so much. Please put a valuable feedback once this video is published. Thank you, guys. Bye, everyone.